Good morning, May. How are you today?
I'm great, Kevin. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm really so thrilled. I want to introduce our future audience to you. I'm very excited to be able to talk with May Erlewine today. May is a singer-songwriter from the Midwest. I'm also from the Midwest, so we share that common area of the Midwest that we work and live in. And you're about to release an album on May 13th called Tiny Beautiful Things. I thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, we're glad to have you. I wanted to I always like to go back with the people that I talk to kind of like, I'm a musician myself too. And I just like to ask people like, when was that first moment in life where like music all of a sudden like came in and kind of got you excited and you just started to dabble in it at first?
Mm. I was so fortunate in that I was raised around so much music. And in my family, music was as important as food or anything else. And so music and art for that matter. And so I grew up listening to some incredible music. My dad was a musician and my mom was a great appreciator. So it was just around. But I remember the magic that I felt around music when I first sang. And I can't tell you how old I was because I started singing very early, like I was a very vocal child.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I remember just the feeling in my heart, and I still have this feeling when I sing. And I think singing in general is so good for your body that it just like your heart expands into the world. And I felt this peace and this great feeling around singing. And so I think that was the first time like I embodied music and could feel like the magic there.
And I have to say this early in our interview because it just plays into what we'll talk about, but I could see it giving you peace and also just your beautiful voice. I mean, people, and I read comments on your YouTube videos and your posts and your concerts that people write. It's very soothing, and as I listen to it, very soothing voice. So it gave you the same peace that I think you're giving others in your career because it's really something.
Aw, that's such a sweet thought. I love that, Kevin. Thank you.
You're welcome. It just so there's something about that when you find that voice, um, that obviously it was a big impact on you and led to what you do today. So, um,
Absolutely.
did you play any instruments when you were younger? Did you play? When did you pick up the guitar? Like how?
Um, I picked up the guitar when I was, I think, 12 years old. And that was when I first like really understood what songwriting was. And I picked up a guitar and I wrote a song. It just like came through me immediately. And I think the guitar was just my vehicle for songwriting. Before that, I played violin and piano as a young kid, and like I said, sang a lot. But when I picked up the guitar, it was like something else happened, and that was a really special moment. And I didn't put it down from that point on.
And it's interesting that you say it kind of what became your songwriting, tool, your songwriting vessel in a sense. So it stuck more than maybe piano and violin did because it gave you that new tool to express yourself possibly. And whereas so many, I mean, I love the piano and I wish I had taken lessons as a child, but so many people I talk to, so many adults and kids, and they get to a point sometimes where that left hand has to come in and it's like okay, and so it doesn't
Yeah.
become enjoyable anymore, sometimes. I think it's such a skill to have, but I think also sometimes it becomes less enjoyable. Not the guitar is easy by any stretch, but you know I don't know.
Yeah, I think the guitar was the vehicle for my songwriting, and what I stuck with that for a long time. And now I use the piano a lot too. But I'm not an instrumentalist at all. So to me, these instruments are all just to support my ability to write songs and sing is really what I do. But I spent a lot of time with guitar, and it was sort of my first love as far as instruments go.
And then when was it in that once you found that voice, literally and spiritually found that voice to sing and to write and to express yourself through lyrics, when was it that you started playing guitar at 12? When did you decide that, oh, this is not just a little hobby for me. This is something I would love to share with everyone that I ever meet. and make a career out of it?
Well, I just started writing, like I said, immediately. So I just really felt a connection with songwriting. And so I was 12 when that happened, and I lived in a very small town in middle Michigan. And my sisters were going to college at U of M. And there wasn't a lot going on in the town that I grew up in. And so on the weekends, I would take the bus, which was a 6-hour bus ride all the way to Ann Arbor. And I would stay with my sister in college and then take it back on Sunday and be back in time for school. So it was like this very small amount of time I actually got to be there. But my sister had all these, cool artist friends in college. And so I would go down there and she would let me stay with her. And they would ask me to sing for them. And so besides my family and friends, my first audience was these sort of hangs that my sister was having with her college friends. And, at first I thought they were just sort of being nice to me because I was like this kid. But then they just kept requesting songs by name, and they would ask me to play them specifically and more and more. And of course they were being encouraging of a young person. But also I realized, they're connecting to this music. And it gave it a little bit of weight or something where I kind of started to take it more seriously and realize that, this is something I could maybe do.
I would imagine that sometimes when people start to remember your songs by name like that's when it really does click in, like you said, because they're not just saying, that's really nice, I enjoy that, but they're saying, play this song and sing that lyric, or they're singing along, they're humming along, they're singing with you, and you're like, okay, they are taking me seriously. This isn't just my older sister's group of friends, like you said, that are just, being nice. They're remembering what I'm doing.
Absolutely. And there's something about that, there's an ego side to that, of course, but there's something about music being useful to people that really is special to me. And like what I get out of being a music appreciator is the way that music can move things in my heart, and it changes my life. It's something I can lean into for all different reasons. So that part of making music is the most exciting to me. And I remember one of my sister's friends, she grabbed my hand and she was like, baby, that song that you wrote is just helping to heal my heart. And that just hit me. It's this is helping. This is doing something outside of me that I never even imagined possible. That is so cool. And then also when some of my sister's friends would sing along, it's not only are they listening, but they know some of the words and are lifting their own voices and their own bodies into this music. And that connection that we can share with people when we're making music together or feeling music together, it's unlike anything else. So I felt little glimpses of that at a very young age, and I'm so fortunate for that support.
And when I've read, a little bit about your process of putting words together and how you kind of almost your philosophy that you started to talk about a little bit now, you have such an eloquent way of talking about how the music moves through people. Could you possibly expound on that a little bit about just who you are, that you just, this is much more than just writing some lyrics and having a guitar in your hand. You really do, based on what you were just saying, that you started that process of explaining that with your sister's friend, how you really, the heartstrings and how it intertwines, and how it even for to help people in life and situations like that, but also just positive inspiration for people.
Yeah, it's such a special space, Kevin. And I'm sure as a musician, exactly what I'm talking about. When I feel like music is this secret sort of code where you could be completely different than someone else. You guys could have completely opposite views. And I could be in a room with this person and I could sing a song and reach their heart in a way that no conversation could, or no act that I could possibly perform could reach their heart in the same way. I couldn't come up with the right sentence, but somehow I can reach maybe they're grieving their grandmother and they haven't had time to think about it. And the song can reach that part of their heart. They don't want to talk to anyone in their life about it, but the music moves them and reaches them, and some healing takes place, or or some movement takes place within them. And that's why music is so important. It's beyond just a sonic experience. It kind of encompasses our whole bodies and like minds and spirits, like you were saying. So it is really special. And I think one of the things I focus on is being service oriented as an artist. And I think some of that is in the songwriter path, like Woody Guthrie and Joan Baez and all these activists that use songs to support community and to speak for things and to do work in the world. And so there's like that kind of activist political aspect of songwriting. But then there's just like the healing power of music and what that can offer to a community or what that can offer to just a single person. And I realized, I think when I was 18, I had this really profound moment where I wanted to write songs that were not just for me and my process. Of course, they always are, but that would be useful in the community. And what did that look like? I don't know, and I still don't know every time. I'm like, well, how is this useful? But I wanted to offer myself as an artist in that way to the community. And I think the main thing that I try to do and strive to do is make space for people to feel. And it can be feeling happy, it can be feeling sad, or anything in between those things. But just creating a little bit of room for feeling where there might not be an opportunity in our busy day-to-day lives. So music is just such a great vehicle for that. And I feel so happy to get to do that for a living because it's really special to see people open up in that way.
And I have to think too that especially when you're able to interact with people in person with your live shows, when they come up to you afterwards and they say things or when they post on social media, I mean, I see so many. Some people don't take the time to post when they see a video or something. But I have to say, when I scroll down through your videos and watch all the positive things that people have to say, it's gotta just empower you to want to help more and to want to write more for yourself, like you said, but for other people because they have such positive things to say. They talk about how you help them with your lyrics or how they love this melody and it hits the soul. It just that people take the time. Sometimes you see a video with 80,000 views and it's got one comment.
Mm.
You see you've got a lot of views on many of your videos, and one of them I want to talk about later on because just it seemed to really hit a good positive chord with people. So many views and so many comments, people taking the time to tell you. And sometimes in roles that we have in life, people aren't given opportunities to tell us how we've impacted them. And as a songwriter, they can. And it's got to be so rewarding.
It's I'm so humbled by it because it's not really me. A lot of the things that are happening have nothing to do with me, but it's beautiful to have these statements from people about how music has touched them, and to have it be music that I created is so, so very meaningful to me. It helps keep me on my path. It reminds me of what's most important because the music industry it's a hard road to take. It's a hard career to have. Being a woman in the music industry is a whole other piece. And so to have someone say, what this one song that you created helped me to overcome an obstacle in my life, like that is valuable. Whereas like I could get written up in some magazine somewhere, I don't even know what that means. Sometimes it's helpful, sometimes it's not, all these things that you can't equate to value. But I can equate that statement to value. It's so much value because it's like a heart and soul value, And so those are the comments, all those ones, I don't take a single one for granted, and they really keep me going. And it's just, again, the power of music is so, so amazing. And another piece is that I'm very transparent as an artist in my emotions. And sometimes it's very raw, sometimes it's very vulnerable, taking risks and trying to have the courage to be an authentic voice. And so not everyone's going to like that. And some people are like, whoa, that music's too heavy for me. I don't want to go there. Like, why would I listen to that? Oh my God. But then the people who really need it are like, oh, this is my medicine. And so when I get that feedback of like, oh yeah, I heard this and it was the thing I needed, it reminds me like, okay, it's good to be vulnerable. It's good to take these risks. And it might not be for everyone, but the people it's really for them, and that feels so special. It's a mutual relationship with that person,
Right. And I think too in our, you talk about the music industry being a tough industry. it's tougher even now that the label situation has kind of, we all are doing home recording. I mean, that's good. It's, in many ways, it's good and bad. I mean, but in today's world with all the social media, you really do end up connecting with people a lot closer than than a musician ever would. And they have the opportunity to really share some of that. So you get that feedback, and you really get to hear what they're thinking, more than ever, and in person. And I think that's what people like about you though too, because you are I've seen all your introductions to your different, not all of them, but several of them, to different platforms that you use, where you introduce yourself and you talk a little bit. Maybe there's some music playing in the background of a melody that you wrote, and you're talking about what and that's why I wanted you to talk about before, what your philosophy about music, because it's so eloquent with the way you say it, and about how you said mission, service, you're service oriented. I've heard you say that in some of your, things that you've talked about, and it's so eloquent. And so I think that's what people, they know you're genuine. They have no doubt, walking away from a concert, walking away from an album, a song, a lyric, that you're so genuine about it. And that's what I think is so neat about what you do, that you do make yourself vulnerable. Music's very private, personal, the words we write.
Yeah. Oh, that's so nice to hear. Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate that.
Of course.
And it is me, for better or worse. Like, I definitely, I say all kinds of stuff and mess up all the time. I'm very human, and like, it's, like I said, for better or worse, here I am. And I think there's this idea when you are performing, and of course I take it seriously and, want to have a professional way about it. But that doesn't mean you have to become something you're not, or that doesn't mean you have to become like all of a sudden this perfect thing or inhuman, and it's always been really important to me to not take on that identity as a performer of something unreachable, or like, I just don't believe in that, because it's just not real, and it's a trap too. It can be really isolating for people. So I love to stay connected and to be accessible to my community and useful in the community. It feels so good and helps me to stay grounded. It's not just selfless. It helps me to not get lost in ideas that I don't believe in.
I think it's a great way to be able to be, especially on that stage, because it can be nerve-wracking to just, you have all your lyrics and all your songs, and then you get up there, you're ready to sing, and you go, what was that one? How did they use that one word? And that, just things happen because we have so much in our brains. And, Paul McCartney once said that he was doing a concert and he forgot the lyrics to, Paul McCartney forgets lyrics. Oh my goodness. He forgot the lyrics to a song, and the audience ate it up. They cheered and they cheered and cheered like crazy. And someone asked me afterwards, did you do that on purpose? He said, why would I forget my words on purpose? But people loved it. They love the vulnerability that someone can forget their own lyrics, or someone can play a wrong note or a wrong chord. And so it just shows that you're human, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I've never had an audience turn on me for making a mistake. It's only been me that's turned on myself to make things bad. That's it.
So it's freeing when you don't get too lost in the fact that it has to be a perfect show.
Absolutely.
The audience will love it no matter what.
Yeah.
Love it no matter what. I wanted to ask you a songwriting type of question. When you're writing, what seems to come first, the lyrics, the melody, or a little bit of both? Or
I write very differently all the time, and so it's not the most satisfying answer when people ask me this question. I'm very committed to my creative muse, and however that energy, some people call it muse, whatever you want to call it, when the inspiration strikes, I'm really committed to that feeling, and I'll just follow it. So if it comes through the piano, then it comes to the piano, the guitar. If it comes through lyrics, often the idea will come first. There'll be a seed, whether it's lyric or music. And once I capture the seed and the sort of basic inspiration of it, I'll spend some time with that and not be critical at all. And then once I feel like I've gotten the sort of transmission of inspiration, then I'll sort of get to work and really start to build it and start to kind of make a lot of a big mess of a song and come up with lots of lyric, come up with lots of musical ideas, try a lot of different melodies, and do that for a while. And then at the end, I'll edit it down and down and down until I can't bear to cut it, and then I know it's done. And so that's kind of how I work as a general format. But it really changes what comes first. and I try to write a lot. So it's kind of just whatever sparks interest is what I go with.
Probably makes it easier too, because then you don't have to, you're not forcing yourself to follow a formula. Like if you have lyrics that night you have to find a melody for it, or if you find a melody that you don't have to plug lyrics in right away, you put it down, come back to it, write a stanza, come back, write a verse, write a bridge, whatever, and put it away, come back to it. It's to me, for myself, not, I'm at a very amateur level with things, but I just find that I used to force myself to do songs in one sitting, and that was so horrible. It was horrible to have to do that. Now I just I don't mind writing down one verse and putting it away and coming back to it a month from now, a year from now.
Mhm.
More fun.
Yeah, I think it's nice to not trap yourself too much in that process. And like you said, fun. It should be fun. And so when it's when I'm not feeling excited anymore, then whatever I'm doing, I stop immediately. I'm like, okay. And not to say I don't later go kind of trudge through the work part of it. It is work. My friend Maya Sharp's amazing songwriter. And she's like, people say, oh yeah, it's not me. Songs move through me. I'm just a vessel. She's like, but I work hard for that. and I'm like, yeah, so there is a lot of work and dedication and diligence. You can't just be led by fun. But as far as the creative part of it, I try to really follow the excitement and the curiosity and be like, oh, the melody's interesting. Okay, now I'm bored playing the piano. Let's go write for a while, and just letting it be its own journey. And it's super great. I have a lot of friends who have exact process. They do it the same every time. They have a system, or they have a time limit that they sit down every day, and that works really great for them. So I think everyone's very different in the way they do it, but this seems to work for me.
I from my own just small experience, I would agree with you completely to how it works for me, because I was really locking up the brain a little bit, trying to do everything a certain way. And it's like, no, it's really not. It's art. It's wherever it comes from, wherever the inspiration comes from, and whatever moment it might be. It might be in the middle of the night. It might be in the morning. It might be over lunch. And, you just kind of jot something down, or talk into a phone or into a voice memo machine, and just kind of, I was always so worried about, oh, I'm going to lose this, and I'm going to lose this moment. And no.
Yeah, I hear you. I always feel like if you have this expectation or pressure or productivity idea, it's like a magnet when they're opposites to creativity. So it's productivity and pressure are coming here, but creativity is just running away. They can't actually meet here. So I try to keep that stuff away as long as possible.
Right. Let's talk about the album a little bit. The new album coming out May 13th, Tiny Beautiful Things. I read about how the title came about, but I thought maybe you could share with our audience how that was inspirational for you.
Yeah, the album is titled after a book by Cheryl Strayed, and she went under a pseudonym Dear Sugar and had an advice column. And this book is a collection of these letters, correspondence between people writing into the advice column and then her response to them. And I found this book many years ago. It was recommended by a friend. I was going through just a really tumultuous emotional time in my life, very difficult, and feeling really isolated. And someone gave me that book, and it was at the time just like a life-saving companion. And I think because it was correspondence, because it was so human, and they were navigating these really, really challenging life things, the worst things you could imagine happening. And then also some comical things, all the kind of situations. But a lot of them were pretty dire, emotional things people were going through. And her responses were from her own experience and her own voice. And they weren't really solutions, but they were just reflections back to these people. And something about reading those letters just gave me this peace around, we as humans go through things, but we're not alone in that. And that was the piece I needed to get through my time. And it's you're going to get through it. Who knows how? Will it be okay? Will it not be okay? We can't really answer those things, but we will get through it, and we're not alone in these things. So that book just really profoundly impacted me. And her writing is beautiful. There's so many words of wisdom in there. I quote it all the time. And so that book's been very special for me for a long time. And I wrote a song titled after it, and that's the title track on the record. And that came first. And then I realized in this time of the pandemic and feeling really isolated, a lot of people struggling with mental health, going through some of the hardest things they'd ever imagined. So I wrote this batch of songs that there are all these different incarnations of love. in the ways we can experience love, because it's not just joy. Love encompasses everything. So it just felt really connected to this book. And I had that title track, or that track title after her book. And I just decided, like, I don't know how she'll feel about this. I don't know if it's okay, but I want to honor her. I want to honor this humanness. And I kind of felt like the book being paired with the album was a nice fit. So I wanted to send people to read it and to gain her wisdom and just like absorb all of that. So that was where it came from. And the idea of when we're isolated, we're still very, very connected to each other. And we're not alone in these hard times, being the thread. So that was the concept. And most of the songs were written during the first year of the pandemic.
Sometimes people during this time, and not for everybody for sure, but sometimes people found ways to be even more connected because they had to do things a certain way to reach their loved ones, whether it be like our platform right here right now on Zoom, and people found ways to interact with people. And I found myself interacting with people I haven't interacted with for years. And then because I had the time, for starters, I had the time. And second, because I used these platforms to reach out to people that I hadn't talked to, colleagues and friends and family from across the country. And that wasn't perfect, but there were some times when it could be, but yeah, this, to be able to sit and be reflective and write songs that really could help people during this time, I'm sure was very rewarding when you finished it and, got to look down and listen to what you had done.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely had a lot of time I didn't know exactly what to do with. And having the album to work on, I called my co-producer, Joe Hedinga, and said we had worked on a single together remotely. And it went really well. And we did it all over Zoom. So I thought, why not just keep going and make a record? And it was just such a godsend to have, like, pretty much every day something to go do and work on that was productive. And not just sitting alone in my house, like making sourdough bread every day. Like there was only so much sourdough bread I could make.
Right.
And so it was great to make music. And as always in my life, music is a positive thing I lean into when I'm going through a lot. And I do think, to just reflect back to you what you said about having quality time with loved ones and finding new ways, there were so many special things that happened that way. And I did feel this thread of people remembering how important their connections are, how important their families are, and like really reprioritizing their value systems around being there for their loved ones. Because when you take all the hubbub away, then what do we have? And so that was an equally challenging thing to be shown, but there were so many beautiful parts that I witnessed anyways of realizing how important my loved ones are.
Yeah. I agree in my life too. Life changing, not that we want to go through or wanted to go through what we went through, but I can't say that everything that came out of it was negative. There were some things that were just amazing positives, so you just take everything as it comes, day at a time, and you live and breathe with what comes through your life.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wanted to ask you, because I know you said I didn't know what Cheryl would think or what did you get the chance at all with all the social media out there in ways of reaching people? People used to be protected by publicists and managers and the super manager and the label and book companies. And, did you get any chance to ever kind of just get her opinion, or just see what she thought? Because I'm sure you're promoting her, we're out there promoting her book in a indirect and direct way.
Yeah.
Good thing.
When I made the record, I tried really hard to reach out to her in many ways, and we weren't successful. But when I first wrote the song, Tiny Beautiful Things, I posted a video of it on Instagram and on Twitter and tagged her, and she responded and she heard it and loved it. And that was honestly the only reason I felt like it was probably okay to do that album title, because I really wanted her blessing. But she loved that song and she was really touched and she shared it. And so I think because of that, I was like, okay, she's okay with this. And she works with other musicians who've done songs like around that book and songs inspired by certain letters and things. So I know she's very supportive of the arts, and my hope is that she feels honored by it in some small way, and that the book sales, go up a little bit because I believe in the book and I believe in her work. And, she's got an amazing podcast. You know, she's just doing wonderful things. I respect her so much. She's inspired me. So yeah, it's a little way to give back to her great inspiration.
I think it's great that you were able to reach her through that post and the initial post with the song and everything. Because I mean, it always helps just to feel like, okay, someone that I am inspired by and using some of that inspiration likes it, but just also just that feeling of, wow, she got to hear what I've so much of my being during the time I read that book, in your case, it was so important to you. And then she got to realize how important it was because you took the time to write songs and album and perform. And, so it's neat that, of course, you like to just get that, hey, sounds great. And that just that endorsement, just to feel good about it. But beyond that, even just the fact that you were able to tell her how much, through your song, how much it meant, because you wrote a song and an album labeled after that book.
Yeah, those things, they mean so much, and a lot of the accolades that people strive for in some ways, they're not the things that really hit you and like that you cling to when you need reminders. But these little things of having a moment with some of my heroes it's just been out of this world. And yeah, it's so nice to tell the people that have changed your life that their work really matters, and hers supremely does. Like she's been really brave in her vulnerability and her courage in writing some of what she wrote in that book struck me and gave me courage. And especially as female writers, it's like really, really inspiring to see someone being that brave. And so, yeah, I'm really touched by her.
I wanted to ask you about the first single, Easy. I saw that American Songwriter magazine debuted the single, and we talk about magazines and books and music and what in the big scheme of things, but that struck me as like, wow, that's a big deal, because I remember growing up, reading the magazine, and I pick it up still from time to time, or I go to their website. I thought that's a really cool accolade to have them debut the single, because to me that is a big deal.
Yeah, I was so honored by that. It's so excited. And yeah, it's a big deal to me. And that I've also read the magazine for a really long time and have seen that, the font of the title of it's just like, yeah, this is a big thing. So when I heard they were going to premiere it, I was really excited and touched and just happy to share that. And talking to Sam Long was really fun. They were wonderful to talk with, and we ended up in this like very deep conversation. We talked for a really long time just about some of the emotional parts of the pandemic and everything we've all been through. And it was really, really a joy to talk to her. So that was really fun, and a great way to kick off the release of Easy for sure.
Yeah. And just on a personal note, I just have to tell you, I love the song. I just really love it. I love the way that when you sing it the third time, that when you sing the word easy, it's just the harmony builds a little bit. It just gets more full. And I just love that. It's so catchy.
Thank you. Yeah, it is definitely a catchy song. One of my friends heard it before it was released, and they were like, "This is a pop song." I was like, "Yes, it is."
It so much is. It so much is. And I was going to ask you if it's hard to pick that first song to be a single, and in a world where, singles become things that we just put in front of us, but we don't have the support necessarily of radio anymore and of other platforms. That's different platforms we have to chase, but we still take a song we put out in front of us like that as the song that is how you want people to first hear the album, or first hear your voice if they haven't heard it before for some reason, which I find it hard to believe that they haven't heard your voice before, because you're just out there everywhere. I mean, as I see you, they better have heard your voice by now because you're everywhere. You're everywhere. It's great. But it does. It has all the sensibilities of a pop song. It just sounds like something that would fit in so many places. And I just think it has so much, I don't know, it could land anywhere.
Aw, thank you, Kevin. It was so much fun to make that song and to record it. I actually had tried to record it in a session years back, and it didn't quite turn out. So it was good to finally give it some legs and some time. And yeah, we had a lot of fun working on it.
I'm glad you didn't give up on the song then. I'm glad you kept going back to it, because it is. I love it. I really love it.
Thank you.
How important was the sequencing of the album, that how you put the songs and everything? Because, you know, we think sometimes as songwriters too, and again, amateur, but I always think in that mode, even though I just always think in that mode of, you know, because I'm a music listener. I listen a lot to albums, and I think about all the work that people go through to, sometimes some people it's very meaningful. Some people say, you know, we can arrange it anyway. But in a world where sometimes people just hit a button and do shuffle play on Apple iTunes or whatever, Spotify, whatever, Pandora, and so many artists painstakingly decide, this is track 3, this is the last track, this is the first track. How important is it to you as a songwriter when you put together a collection of music that we still call an album and put it in order?
I still take it so seriously, Kevin. I treat it like they're going to listen to it in order, even though I'm very aware barely anyone will. But especially when pressing to vinyl, I really wanted to give that order a lot of thought. And the way I think about sequencing, it has to feel good musically, of course. And so that's what I let kind of guide the first decisions. And then I like it to have an emotional arc and story that makes sense as a whole. So I try to puzzle those things together, like which musical transitions will work, and then what's the story arc that makes sense between song to song, and like try not to jar people too much, but not like get too, you know, similar, and just make a nice balance of it all. And this one was actually easier to sequence than a lot of records. It just, it was kind of a succinct set, and they already kind of had their own storyline that I knew, and it just happened that sonically that went together well too. So I did put a lot of thought into it. I always listen to the transitions. I try several orders. I try several transitions, and just try for a long time listening until I feel happy. And then usually I ask friends to listen and offer input. And if they don't have anything that really jarred them, then we're getting close, you know?
I think that I think it's a neat, never having had to do it myself, but just when you think about some of the classic albums out there and how the songs, how you remember what comes next, you know, with your favorite artists, people that you've listened to across your life, that what songs to be next, and how it's such a thread. And then you think about when you, as an artist, play it back for yourself, your own album, and say, yeah, it just kind of, it flows the way that, and it takes a long time sometimes, like you said, go back and forth and not too jarring, and a good transition and whatnot. But at the end, it's got to be kind of neat to just say, wow, okay, here it is.
Yeah. And at the end too, it's like, I think Rick Rubin has a quote of just like, it's got to be done when it's done. You could work on something forever, but it's like, there has to be, it's finished when you stop. So like he has a quote, something like that. Like, it's just, it's not done. It's just where you chose to stop. And so like, there's a point with sequencing or anything where you just have to be like, okay, I think this is it. And then that's it. There it goes.
Right.
There are some old albums I listen to that I love, and I'm totally like familiar with their sequence, and it's like part of me. But when I think about it in terms of like if I were sequencing it, I'm like, wow, I don't know if I would have done that. Like that's a kind of a weird move. Like who did that? Yeah, but I love it. So that always like lets me know, oh, maybe it doesn't matter as much as I think it does. It's just what we come to love and get used to, because habit or like familiarity is a huge piece too. So I don't know, but I spend probably way longer than I should, and I'm happy to do it.
That's that. I think it's exciting. I think it's exciting. It could be daunting for a moment sometimes, I'm sure, but then when you do, like you said, when it's done, it's done. If you can step away from it and feel good about it, then that's all that matters, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
No, so I was looking at your YouTube channel, and I noticed the video for your song Never One Thing from the album Mother Lion, over 116,000 views. I mean, that number jumped out at me in comparison to, you know, many of your songs, which still have very, very few views, several thousand. You know, most of your songs have several thousand views, which is so neat that you're reaching several thousand people with each of these songs and videos. But that number just jumped out at me. It's like, wow, 116,000. And you know, many of the people who commented on it say that their class or their choir is singing it. I saw you sing it with the choir on one of the YouTube posts. And what platform was it that got this song into the ears of so many music fans? Where did it come from? I mean, or where did it get promoted that it got to blow up like it did?
That song, it just resonated so deeply for some reason. At the time it came out, I don't know if it was the timing of it. And it's sort of like a rebellion against stigmas, right? And I wrote it from the perspective of a woman, even though it's not limited to that by any means. But a lot of women have connected to it in the way of like, God, all of these things I try to fit inside of as a woman in the world. Like, you have to be this, you have to be this, you have to be this. But I think anyone can relate to that idea. Like, the more confined we feel, the less ourselves we feel. And so the song is sort of a cry to be able to be the multitudes that we are. I was inspired by that quote, "I am large and contain multitudes, never one thing." And so I worked on the song with producer Tyler Duncan, and we had so much fun. It was definitely our biggest track as far as all the stuff that was on it. And I think it's a unique production. So it kind of like this weird march, kind of this a cappella ballad almost that slowly grows into more of like a pop track. It's a long song. So it doesn't have any of the things that like would be remarkable as a hit, in any way. And in fact, I submitted it to all these things and contests and all these things, and they like all declined. They're like, this is too monotonous. This doesn't have enough of an arc. They were like ripped it apart. We're just like, we don't like this song. I was like, yeah, that's okay. That's okay. That's all fair. I'm good with criticism. It's fine. But it just resonated with a lot of women and a lot of people. And then on top of that, my friend Corey Brown arranged it for choir and then got it published with the Hell Leonard series. I'm spacing the name right now. Andrea something, she has a series of more contemporary choir pieces that Hal Leonard published. And so my friend Corey, her arrangement got published. So it's now internationally available in the choir sheet music world. So all of these choirs all over the world are singing the song, mostly women choirs. So it's been so incredible because all these choir conductors are emailing me saying, this song has been so good for the women in our choir, and it's like helping them feel empowered. And like, I've been asked to come and talk about where the song came from and all this stuff. So it's got a life of its own, and for some reason also little kids have loved that song. And I think it's just got a really like basic beat, and it's like a chant and it's repetitive. So they like can grab a hold of it. So it's just funny the things that end up catching, right? And
yeah.
The song meant a lot to me, but all of them do, honestly. So that one just had a life of its own. And the video was really stunning. I worked with my friends DJ and John to create it. And a lot of women that I love were in it. And so that video did really well, also just visually.
Yeah. It's exciting to hear that about the publishing deal, how the song got published through Hal Leonard. I mean, one of the biggest, if not the biggest song, publishing companies for music today, for sheet music. I mean, I probably have 300 books that have Hal Leonard on the back, and I teach music lessons, and every time I look for a book or look for a compilation of Broadway songs or pop songs or whatever, Hal Leonard's always on the back. I'm like, wait, but they got it in this book. It's in these 20 books that they have so many, they've created such a body of, published music. And how cool is that because people, choir teachers are out there looking for songs, and they keep finding yours, and they perform it, and they talk about it on the like I said, on that YouTube channel. Just scrolling down, I couldn't help it. It was like a guilty pleasure to just keep scrolling down and reading one more thing and one more thing, and my choir's singing this and my choir's singing that, and my choir loved this, and then to see you singing it with the choir, and it's just like, wow, this song, how did that happen? And I didn't know the answer, so I was so glad to ask you that and hear that's why choirs are singing it, because it got arranged by your friend like that. And that's so neat.
Yeah, it was so special. And this is one of those moments where like, it felt like a very affirming thing. And I remember when I got the news that they were going to publish it, I was so elated because I was in choir, I lived choir when I was young,
right,
and was in all of them and loved it and competed and did all of those things. And so to have it published in that way, it was like making it in some way to me. And I kept telling my friends, they're like, oh, that's cool. Like choir, like what? How is that? And I was just like, no, this is it. Like for me, this is it. This is one of those big things. So I was so honored. And just to have, like, to me, singing is so good. And to have that many voices lifting up a song that I had something to do with, it's just like a huge honor. And then it's also just doing other work in the world that I couldn't even know about. That's great, you know?
Yeah, yeah. That's so exciting. It's I think about when my students they bring in their choir books and they bring in the songs that they're all to prepare for their concerts. And one of these days I'm going to open up one of these books and your song's going to be there because it's just got legs of its own. And it's like I'm going to say that's so neat to see that. It's going to come full circle for me. And one day I just know it is because they
Oh,
bring these songs, and they explore other options for music. It doesn't have to be the flavor of the week that they hear on the radio. These choir teachers look for songs that have meaning that are not the song that they had to hear a million times in the background of a TV show. It's something that they find as art and inspirational lyrics, inspirational meaning it's a way to get that your songs in a platform that might not have happened. So neat, so neat.
it is. It's so amazing and so fun.
I watched a little bit of your concert video from last year at the City Opera House, and boy, it's just again, I have to sit down and watch the rest now. I watched the first maybe 10, 15 minutes. I have to go back and finish it because again, you're so comfortable up there. The audience just seems so excited to see you from the moment you walk on the stage. It's so neat to see this following that you've built over time of people who can appreciate and that you're able to do it without having to have radio support or have a major label support, that you're reaching people.
Mhm.
So
I feel so lucky to have. I am a community supportive musician, and so many people have, in big and small ways, invested in my voice and my art, and stand by it and support it and show up at the shows. And so I feel just so much gratitude for that. And it's not lost on me how fortunate I am to have that support and that great welcome from the audience in Traverse City where I live. And it's just so special to get to do this and to have that support and to have people feel moved by this music. It's so incredible. So yeah, I'm grateful.
and another thing that just drives that point home is you started a Kickstarter campaign. You've done it for a couple of the albums, and the people just, I mean, 800 people, and that's a lot of people that will sit down and decide to share their resources, especially in hard times when people are trying to make ends meet, that someone will sit down at a Kickstarter site and send support to people to because they love your music and they love what you're doing. And I think they love your message when they hear your message. And when you talk about it, I think some people, I wish I had time. I don't have a lot of time in my life, but I wish I had time to go on like a site like Kickstarter and do the same thing. Support people who are just so passionate about their work and have such great things that they can do for the community through their music, and just dabble in, like, I'd like to help this person. I'd like to help that person. 800 people that sat down and and that just, I thought, wow, you really have reached people. You really have reached people.
Oh, thank you, Kevin. Yeah, again, I feel so fortunate for that, and I'm so touched by it every time. I don't expect it. Every time I do a Kickstarter, I'm like, I don't know how this is gonna go. But it is a reality that independent artists need community to make art. And I love supporting other artists as well, and like being someone who can sort of rally around independent arts in Michigan, especially. So it's a mutually beneficial thing. Like, I get a lot of benefit when I am able to support the artists I love. So I do understand why people go there, but I don't know. I don't know necessarily why they choose me. And I feel very lucky. And I take that seriously too. Like, the fact that my community is believing in my voice, I take it really seriously. And I really want to show up in my best way for them, and put everything I've got into the art. So when a community believes in an artist, then it helps the artist to really do their best work, I think.
And I think people definitely see that how genuine you are, and they truly want to help. They enjoy your music. There's no doubt about that. But beyond the music itself and the lyrics and what you give to them, they just can appreciate how humble you are about it and how genuine you are about it and how this, this really helped me. I think in the Kickstarter campaign, I think I saw that you said, this album is done and I will put this album out, but anything that you put towards this helps me to get it further out there, and where
Yeah.
some people say, I'm just starting from ground zero and without your support, I just can't do it. And that seems more daunting for a giver too, because it's like, oh my goodness, how do I start to help them? I only have $10. Can I really help them with my $10? Whereas you're saying, album's good, we got it, we're gonna do it. But anything you could do to help me get this out to the masses, and they did. That's so cool.
Yeah, I was so moved. It's a nerve-wracking thing to do a Kickstarter for anyone, no matter what level. It's like so much work, and it's scary because you're putting yourself out there and you don't really know. And so I've done a bunch of them, and they're always nerve-wracking and terrifying. And then I'm always just like reminded, oh yeah, community shows up for you, and community shows up for the arts, which is a beautiful thing. Yeah, it's really a testament to the fact that people value art, that they're willing, like you said, their income source that might be lean at this time, they're willing to put it towards an artist is a huge deal, and definitely not lost on me. So it does like continue to help me take it seriously and just dig in a little deeper. It's like, okay,
right,
they're willing to put their themselves behind it, so I gotta do my best.
You also do work with Patreon, and I had seen that I saw it on your webpage itself, and then I went to it to check it out and the different platforms and tiers. And how has that been so far? I think it's very personal. You could be in a songwriting or in a blog or a Zoom session with one of your fans, and the different platforms you offer.
I love it. I love Patreon. It's so fun. My community there is really great. And, with any Patreon, there's some patrons that are very active. And then there's some who just like want to support and I don't hear from them ever, which either way is totally fine. But I release a song almost every week. I send a letter every week, and usually it's with a song. And a lot of times it's just like a memo of something I'm working on. And then I have some sentiments about the song. And we do a monthly concert every week or every month. And then for certain tiers, I do a Zoom session it's a concert, but with some writing prompts. So it's sort of and sharing from the patrons as well. So I come up with a theme and we focus on that theme, and people are allowed to bring things and share. And we do writing exercises, and then I play some songs too based in that theme. So it's so fun to get to know people on a more intimate level. And I love creating space for people to like reflect and write and do things they might not have space for in their day-to-day lives. It's been really cool to see what happens. So I love my Patreon group. Also, it's just so supportive to have something to lean on that's consistent every month. As an artist, it's just kept me alive during the pandemic for sure. When shows just vanished, Patreon became the way that I could do it. So I'm grateful to them, but it's fun. We have a lot of fun together.
It seems like a lot of fun and a great thing for these fans of yours to get a little bit from you each month, and through the just the little song, it's a little bit of the behind the scenes, the inside story behind a song or behind a lyric or what you're working on next. It's the first time I actually was exposed to was through Maya. Actually, I actually interviewed Maya too.
Great!
And she was she's a Patreon artist, and that was the first time. And somehow I'm so busy in life that I never came across Patreon, and so I had seen it through all that she was doing, and then I said, oh, May's doing this too. This is really neat. I got to look at this a little bit more. He said this is it's a neat platform.
It is. I'm one of Maya's patrons, and she's one of mine.
Oh, really? That's so cool.
I have a few of my artist friends that I support because it's just fun and I want to support them. But two, it's inspiring for me because I see what they're doing every week, and like they're on it, and we keep each other going, and Maya and I are we're really dear friends. And so we're constantly bouncing ideas of what we're doing with our patrons and how it's going and what things work, what things don't. And that's really fun. So I enjoy it a lot.
Seems like a really neat platform. Yeah, really neat platform. If you could write with anyone, like going back to even your childhood and growing up and hearing albums of favorite artists, and This could be a living or a deceased songwriter. If there was anyone that you ever could have or still today could write with, who would that be possibly? Someone that you feel their songwriting sensibilities align with yours.
Wow. There's so many, honestly. Can I list a few?
Please, I would love it. I'd love to hear a few. Yes, it's too hard to pick one person. I realize that. It is.
Yeah, I would be. I mean, this is out of this world, but I would love to write with Stevie Wonder. I think that would
my
be
goodness,
so fun. I would love to write with Carole King. That would just be a dream. And Bonnie Raitt. I think those would be my, just immediate, without thinking too much about it. Those would be the top three I would like if I could have my way. I'm sure there's so many. I mean, I could go on and on about this, but yeah, I'd love to work with Stevie because he's so interesting with his chord choices, and his melodies are so familiar and simple and easy, but he does all this crazy keyboard work that just brings these songs to new life, and he just blows my mind constantly, and his voice and melody is just so unique. So I would love to just sit with him in a room and try to write something. It would be so incredible. But yeah, Bonnie and Carole are two women I look to all the time, of course. They just write some of the best songs in the world. So yeah.
Yeah, you talk about all three of them, absolutely. They're amazing songwriters. But Stevie, I remember when I was younger, I remember we had the original Musicarium, the greatest hits collection and everything. And I loved all the radio songs and everything. But as an adult, I've just come to appreciate him so much more for things that were not on the radio. The songs, the albums and the songs and the stories and just the melodies and the layering. I'm just such a huge fan of Stevie, and I would, to be in a room with him to write. Oh my goodness!
Yeah, I was just so curious. Even just to witness what his writing process is like would be so interesting to me.
Yeah,
because his melodies are just so wild. They just are easy to sing along to, but they don't when you think about them. Actually, I'm like, whoa, that's a really unique melody. Joni Mitchell does that too, actually. I'd love to write with her. She has a lot of really cool melodies and chords that she builds that to the ear, it's like, oh yeah, I love this song. But then when you actually try to play it or sing it, you realize how complex and intricate the whole thing is,
It's funny until either you try to play it or you end up seeing the chords in the book and you say, wait a second, you see a chord book and you're like, how did they A diminished minor 7th 9th plus, oh my goodness. And that's how a lot of these people are. And that's why their songs are so, they stay the distance of time, because they are different than anybody else. They write with their melodies are I always thought about Rodgers and Hammerstein, for example. Their melodies were so different that you couldn't plagiarize them ever without accident. You couldn't do it on accident because their melodies were so unique. And any of the three that you mentioned, that especially Stevie, the melodies are so unique that you just know it's Stevie. You just know it. And then the chords and doing it differently and not the same formula every time. And
yeah, he's so special. And then of course his singing is its own world as well. He's such an incredible artist. I got to see him one time, and I'm so grateful for that.
Me too, just one time. And maybe I saw him the day before you did by chance, because I'm in Chicago, and you said you're in the Michigan area. He was in Chicago, and the concert, it poured and poured and poured, and they canceled the show. And he said, it said rain or shine, there would be a show. So they gave us ponchos and everything. We sat out there right off of Lake Michigan, and then they canceled the show. And he came out. He was actually there. He walked out, and he said, I was supposed to be in Detroit tomorrow, but I have to push it back one day so I could be with you guys tomorrow night. And I don't know if you happen to see him in Detroit, because I know you're a Michigan, resident, but that was the year I saw him, and I had to go back to the whole thing into the city, and craziness and rain and canoes and boats and, trolleys to get to the theater. I mean, everything. It was just the craziest thing in downtown Chicago. And I would go back 10 more times in a row to see him, because it was a dream of a lifetime to see him once. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad that happened. What a beautiful thing to do too. Honor his audience. That's incredible.
Right.
I did see him in Detroit. It was the Songs in the Key of Life tour that he did more recently, obviously.
Yeah.
And my friend was actually in his string his string ensemble for the show. And so that's how I heard about it. And it was my daughter, Iris, when she was a baby, we listened to that album constantly. So I took her to see him, and
Oh, how neat.
it was so special. Yeah.
That's
So good.
Yeah, yeah.
He said some beautiful things in between songs too. I love that about, you see your favorite artist and you know you're going to hear the music you love, but to hear their banter is a whole other side of them, and you don't hear that on the record. So someone like Stevie, I just didn't know like the way he talked to the audience, so it was beautiful to hear him speak and to hear what he had to say.
I want to respect your time because I know it's a busy, morning for you. I'm going to try to wrap things up a little bit here for you here, but I have to talk about real quick. So, and brings Stevie full circle a little bit and brings your performing full circle. Okay. So
Okay.
I saw that you have some upcoming tour dates, a couple in April, and then you do a weekend of 3 different city winery shows, which is City Winery. How cool is that? I was at the City Winery in Chicago for the first time this weekend. Never in my life had I been there. I always see the amazing residencies that people do, and all the new artists and existing artists from years past maybe do 4 or 5 shows a week there for that 1 week or whatever. So I thought, first of all, how cool is it that you're doing 3 different city wineries over the course of 3 days? I thought that's really neat. I saw, and I don't know if you remember this artist, Alita Adams.
Oh,
R&B.
yeah.
Yeah. So I went to see her this weekend with my
cool.
wife. The 2 of us went to see her, and I was able to somehow surprise my wife that she didn't know who she was seeing until they introduced her on the stage. I don't know how, the miracle, with all social media and the marquees and nothing, it wasn't written anywhere. She didn't overhear any conversations. So until they introduced her, and she's a big fan, and that's why it was so exciting for me to like share it with her without her actually hearing that it was gonna be Alita Adams.
Mm-hmm.
But she opened with a Stevie song and she ended with a Stevie song. And I was in tears both times because that's just the power of Stevie Wonder. I was in tears both times. And then when she talked, like you said, the banter and how important songs were to her and her own writing. It's just such a powerful night. And now you get to do the City Winery for a full weekend, 3 shows. And I could appreciate that so much more having been there for the first time in the Chicago one this last weekend. How big, what an honor.
Yeah, they're beautiful venues, and I'm excited. It's a big leap for me to go out east and have a like string of great venues like that. So I'm really like trying to encourage the people to come out because City Winery was kind enough to have me. So, and the Warblers are playing. I have a lady trio, the Sweetwater Warblers, and we're playing early May at the City Winery in Chicago.
Oh, really?
So yeah, we'll be there. I forget what the date is. I think it might be the 3rd or the 4th. But yeah, we're going to be there, and that'll be my first time in the Chicago one. I've been to a couple of them, but they're beautiful places to hear live music.
Well, I'm glad to hear that because I realized as looking back at some of your tour dates, I just missed your Chicago date. You were at Hey Nani in Arlington Heights, which is a stone's throw away from me. And I just am so disappointed I missed it. I didn't know about it. And, maybe the May show, maybe they'll work now that I know how to get to the City Winery and I know that I could get there without getting too deep into the grid, the web of the city. I can get there pretty easily on and off the highway, and maybe,
Yeah.
So,
oh, that'd be great. Yeah. Hey Nani was a lot of fun. What a sweet space. They have a piano in such a little venue. It was such a delight.
That's neat. 2 last questions for you. How did it come to be that you had not 1, but 2 contestants performing your songs on The Voice? How did that evolve?
Well, let's see. I'm not sure. Wait, who do you mean is the second one?
I thought there was a second. I thought I had read somewhere that there was a runner-up and a winner who had done songs. Maybe I misread that.
Maybe, I'm not sure.
Or maybe it's the same person that was a runner-up one year and the next year was a winner.
Well, my dear friend Joshua Davis was on The Voice at the same time as Sawyer Fredericks. And Sawyer grew up with my music, and he sang my song Shine On, and he ended up winning that season. And it was funny because he grew up with my music and Josh was my friend, and it just happened coincidentally that they were on the same show together, competing against each other. So when The Voice called me, they were like, hey, someone's going to do your song. We need your approval. And I automatically assumed it was my friend Josh. And then I was like, can I ask who it is or for more information or what song? And then they told me it was Sawyer. And I was like, what? And so I called Josh and I was like, what do I do here? This is like direct competition. Like, I don't know what my job is. And he was like, no. And Josh is such a humble person. And he's like, no, you got to do it. It's great. And I think Josh had submitted singing a couple of my songs. I don't think he ended up doing it, but he sang his own song on The Voice. And it was one of the first times The Voice allowed original music that wasn't in their repertoire. And Sawyer and Josh really fought for that, to be able to sing those songs. Josh sang his own and Sawyer sang mine. But to have original music on the show that wasn't in their whatever lexicon they have,
Right.
had never been done before. And so it was in the like original song part of the show. And I think anyways, and Sawyer sang it to his mom. And so that's for Mother's Day, because my song Shine On was her favorite song. So he sang it to her, which just was a crazy circle of events that was very sweet. And I've come to know Sawyer and his mom through that. And it's just been really, really wonderful. And yeah, a lot of fun.
That's a great story, how two people were kind of vying to sing one of your songs. I mean, you had to feel so good about that. That's just amazing. That's so cool.
Yeah, you never know, right? It's like, if someone had told me that was going to happen, I'd be like, wow, The Voice, like this is where Shine On's going to get its biggest light, is on the television show. I never would have, you never know, right? It's so funny.
I just want to remind people about the new album coming up soon, May 13th, Tiny Beautiful Things. What's the best way for people to, I mean, we've talked about a lot of platforms. Actually, you have lots of platforms they can reach you, but where do you find yourself maybe spending the most time, or the best place where they can reach you to, to hear your music, or, your website and other things?
Yeah, my website is mayerlewine.com, and all the ways to contact me, my tour dates and stuff is always there. I hang out the most on Instagram, and so that's an easy social media way to keep up with me, but I try to keep posting everything, updates everywhere that I am. So it's pretty easy to find me. And once my music's released, it's all also on the streaming platforms. So.
And they can learn a lot about coffee drinking too, right? From Instagram, I believe, right? Isn't there a daily?
Yes, well, almost daily.
Almost daily.
Coffee pour. I love pour over coffee. I use a Chemex and experiment with all different roasts all over the world, and just love that process so much. So yeah, I'm a coffee geek. Sometimes people laugh because they're like, I see more coffee on your Instagram than music. I'm like, yeah, well, music's a given. The rest is,
Well, May, I just have to thank you so much. You've been so generous with your time, and I just have loved learning more about your career. And I'm so excited to see what happens next, because I just think that there's just so many great things happening for you. And I just can't wait to see what happens next.
Thank you, Kevin. It's been such a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you. And good luck on the road. Have fun. Enjoy those audiences and live in the moment. Just enjoy it all.
Thank you so much. Have a great day, Kevin.
You too.